Hello and welcome to this episode of Dear Soul Auntie. My name is Zainab and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host Lisa. Hi Lisa, how's it going?
Hello, hi, yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's great to be back on
It is.
DSA. So, hello, everybody.
hmm So today, Lisa, we've got a really interesting question from one of our viewers, and I think it's something that goes to the heart of a lot of self-esteem, self-worth, a lot of things that a lot of us struggle with. And the question is, how do I separate my self-worth from my perceived failings and achievements? So
Okay,
how do you
yeah,
separate how you feel about yourself
yeah,
from your failings and your achievements?
yeah.
So do you want to have a little, you want to start, Lise?
I think it's a fantastic question, and it relates to me, it relates to not just first of all, your success and your failings. A lot of us, we link our self worth to what we do as a career or, what we do for a living. Okay, let's break that down first in terms of you are not your job, and a lot of people will basically say, "What?" Because you're not your job. We have our 9 to 5 jobs. You have yours, I have mine, and this is something that yes we do. Not to say that we don't like doing that. There's a purpose for everyone in this world. Some of us are optometrists. Some of us are in IT. Some of us are football players. Whatever it is, we have to separate that from who we actually are. Okay. That job role of whatever you're doing to earn money or on a day to day basis is not who you are in the true sense of the word, if that makes sense. So I think we just need to clarify what we're talking about here in terms of, how do you separate? Because the you that's doing that job, your personality, your persona, your outward view of the world. Yes, that's your human life. Okay, those of us who believe in spirituality and knowing that we actually have a source within us, which is always residing with us. Okay, it's helping us do our role within this earth, but it's infinite. It's impermeable in the sense that whatever happens on the outside doesn't change who we are on the inside. In terms of that spirit is infinite, it's not going to change because you lose your job or if you get promoted to be, what I mean, the CEO. Does that change your inner being in terms of your spirit life or who you are? That's the question, isn't it? You have
Yes.
to be aware and recognize who you really are. And that's separate from your earthly, human life. Does that make sense? Or am I
Yeah. No. It's perfect. It makes perfect sense. And even if you, I mean, like you say, I think that is the number one thing. And we're not, even if you don't know who you are. Say, for example, when we say we need to know who we are, sometimes it can feel like a really overwhelming task.
yeah,
Well, do you know you can start by knowing who you're not. So I always say,
that's
if
a
you
good one.
between 9 and 5, you find me at the optometrist's office. That's where I work. That's my job.
Yeah,
But tomorrow, if I get a job as a butcher, you find me at the butcher's,
yeah,
and then afterwards, for some months later, I might get a job as a gardener.
yeah.
I'm the same. So I'm doing different roles. This is just where you can find me between
Mm,
9 and 5. But it's got nothing to do with who I really am. And again, like I
mhm,
say, we can start by saying, who are we not?
yeah,
We are not our jobs.
yeah,
We are not our followers, our likes, our
yeah,
achievements of whatever kind. So from a
mhm,
very young age, it starts in the home. You're
mhm,
a good kid, you're a bad kid. Your parents saying, very good girl. And then
mhm,
already you've been told that you have to toe the line with your parents. And that if your parents are happy because they said you're a good girl, then this is good. And if your parents are not happy, then you're not good. So from a very young age, we're being told that to be worthy, to be considered worthy, you need to be good. And whether that's good for your mum and your dad or your nanny and your granny, or whether it's having good grades in school, or whether it's getting a good job, getting a quote unquote like a good having a good career, having money or whatever. These are the things that we use as a barometer of
Mm,
our worth.
mm, mm.
So it's like how we measure our self-worth is something external to us,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's very dangerous because, sorry, Lisa.
No, I was agreeing with you. Carry on. Yeah,
Yeah, and because we cannot control the outside. So tomorrow, if you were to get sacked, then are you not worth it? If you have this big job, for example, and you feel like, oh, I'm really doing something, I'm
yeah,
really like,
yeah.
I'm worthy. If your worth is linked to outside things, well, outside things are not reliable.
No,
So if tomorrow you lose that job, then what? If tomorrow your husband goes, then what? If the house is, you become bankrupt, then what? So you're not worth it now.
yeah,
So I think as a society, we've been taught from a young age to conflate the two things.
mm,
Your achievements. I'm not saying don't achieve things. Go forth and prosper. Achieve all you want,
mm.
but remember that it doesn't. It's not linked to your self-worth. So you can be worth it because you are. You're already worthy. From by virtue of being born, you are worthy.
Yes,
Don't need anything
absolutely.
more.
Yep.
So everything else is the icing on the cake. Become a footballer, become a dancer, whatever you want. Go. We're only here for a short time, so enjoy your life. Do what you want. Do what makes you happy. But it's separating our self-worth and how good or bad we feel about ourselves from external things. And it's really, really important, especially in this world of social media, where the young people might think, if they don't look a certain way, if they don't achieve a certain thing, if they don't have as many followers, if they don't have as many likes, or as many hearts, so they're not worthy. And it's very problematic. But like I said, it goes all the way back to when we're toddlers, when we're very little, and our parents are like, good girl, you're doing good, and
Yeah,
everyone's telling you that you're a good girl. It starts then.
yeah.
So it's very endemic from a very, very young age, and it's something that actually, it's not something I really thought about until I'm much older, but it's something that starts really early on.
Yeah, no, it does. We're conditioned, and there's a few things I want to pick up on in terms of what you said. Why do we need to separate who we truly are from our role in society in terms of, I'm a mom, I'm a IT officer, I'm a HR trainer, whatever it is. Why is it important to understand that why is that important? As you mentioned, it's important because the outside world is changeable. These jobs and careers and houses and money and everything is changeable. It's not actually tangibly
Hmm.
real in terms of um, making you feel loved, because that's what everybody's looking for at the end of the day.
Yes.
Everybody's just trying to feel more love in their life and be loved. So all of this that we're trying to do every day, we wake up, oh, we've got to do this, got to do that, is because we're looking outside of ourselves for that love. Okay, but the more you look outside of it, the further away it gets, because you can't get it from what's outside of you. You can only get that love from inside of you, which is, the love of God, or the love of spirit, or whatever you want to, whatever your belief system is. So that's why it's so important. You cannot base your worthiness on outside factors, because you'll be forever chasing, looking for more money, looking for more, you know, more beauty, more longer hair, or more eyelashes, or whatever whatever it is. It just never end, because society is constantly saying to you, you know what? If you want to be beautiful, you need to look like this. If you want to be loved, you need to look like that. Or if you want to be, if you want people to like you need to wear these clothes. Or if you want, your husband to like you need to be skinny. Or, all it's just never ending. You need to buy that toy for your child at Christmas, otherwise your kids won't, they won't like you, or they'll misbehave. Everything is about what's outside of you. So, and as I said, it's a never ending battle, never ending chase. So the second part of it, the why is, that's why we need to change that. We need to be encouraging people to stop looking outside of themselves for their self-worth and look inside. Because once you look inside and you start to appreciate who you are and become aware of who you are, what happens then is, a whole different world starts to open up for you, because you're now living from the inside out rather than outside in. So I wanted to also ask, how do we start living from the inside out? What is it that we should be doing to improve our self-worth, our self-love, our, just our worthiness? How do we do that? It's one thing saying, well, you can't look outside, but it's important to help people to know how they can do that as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think something we haven't mentioned is about like the conditionalness of how we love ourselves, and or how unconditional love, and there's a condition. So to love ourselves unconditionally, we can't have like limitations. It can't be you're only lovable if you can do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I guess, like you said, what is it that we're doing? We have these jobs, we want this house, whatever it is you want. Ultimately, we just want to be happy and, like you said, feel love and be peaceful, right? That's the end goal. None of us go to work or achieve things without wanting it to make us happy, right? So then if we go back on ourselves, then it's like, what are these conditions? And we talk about unconditional love. So when we have children, we should give them unconditional love, and if our parents don't love us unconditionally, then it leads to like problems in adulthood. Well, do I love myself unconditionally, or is my love for myself, now that I'm a grown up and I'm reparenting myself, is the love I have for myself fully conditional? I.e., if I don't get up and go to the gym in the morning, if I don't do X, Y, Z, then I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy, right? So I think in the first instance, firstly, seeing that actually when I don't if I make a list for myself of things I want to achieve in the day, in the week, in the month, and if I don't do those things, then it makes me feel bad. Why does it make me feel bad? Because maybe it's not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, I have linked that list of things that I should have achieved this month or this week or this day to my self-worth. And then if I don't do those things, then it's because I'm shit, or like I'm just not good enough. Maybe not those exact words, not maybe not so often. It's not really even something we're conscious of. These are like conscious, can't say the word, things that go on in the background. So I think to really like, to the love of God, the love of the universe, the love of source, whatever you want to call it, is unconditional. By virtue of being born onto this earth, you are fully unconditionally loved. You just don't know that because we've been told that our love has to come with all these conditions, and you're only good if you do X, Y, and Z. But actually, what we're talking about is like stripping everything back and saying, actually, without everything, you are already connected to the divine, connected to source, connected to Mother Earth, Gaia, whatever you want. You already are, and you always have been. And it's just that you don't know this because we're not taught that from a young age. We're taught that you need to, as soon as you're born, basically go to nursery, go to primary school, secondary school, whatever, and you've got to tick all these boxes and achieve all these things, and then you die. But actually, you were born worthy already, and there are no conditions. There are no conditions. So these conditions that society tells us that we need to achieve all these things to be worthy, they're not real. They're just a social construct. And if you live in a different, so let's say for example I live in the UK, and there are certain things in the West that we're expected to do in order to be like to make it, to have made it. And then if you go to a different culture, somewhere different, they've got another list of things that you have to do to make it. And all these things are just social constructs. But actually, what I'm suggesting is that we strip it back and we start by noticing, actually, when I don't um, meet the list of demands I give myself now, because now we're perpetuating it onto ourselves. Then when I don't meet the list, then it makes me feel bad. So first things first, notice that this is a thing, that this happens for you. When you wanted to go to your Pilates class, but you didn't make it, but your friend made it, when she tells you, oh, I went to Pilates, you didn't go, it's like, oh, you have a feeling, just a little discomfort. And it might be very subtle. And or when you didn't get the bonus or the promotion or whatever, that there's this feeling of just discomfort that may, like I said, not be a conscious thing, but it's there in the background. So first things first is to become aware that this is a thing, that you are loved unconditionally, and that you may not feel it right now, you may not see it, but you start this journey by, in the seeing is the healing. So first things first, notice that you've given yourself this big list of things to be worthy. And it's not your fault, it's conditioning. It's the way you were raised, it's in the culture that you were raised, in the society that we were raised, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. So, in that awareness is when you can, once you can see that this is what you do, then you are in a position to make a change. But often we don't know. So if you don't know, then you can't do any better. So first things first is noticing that this is a thing, that you link your self-worth to how productive you are, what you achieve, what people think of you, how many followers you have, and the fact that you notice that, in that acknowledging of that, is your healing process. It's the beginning of the healing process, to work backwards into unconditional, radical self-love. And it's not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight, but first things first, notice that you have those conditions, and then also notice it's not your fault you have those conditions, it's just the conditioning that we were raised in. And then with kindness and non-judgment, you start to reprogram and almost like reparent and re-educate yourself from that place.
Mm, mm. Okay, so yes, there is an awareness, and you're 100% correct in that. You do have to start to understand and be aware of what you're doing. Is something that's we're so conditioned to believe that we need to be a certain way in society. To unravel all of that does take time. It's not something that you can just, and to be fair, I say this in a way that what I'm saying, you can't just sort of suddenly wake up one day and realize, okay, I'm linking my worthiness to all of these other things, and it's not working. Basically, I'm still unhappy. I'm still searching for something. What is it that I'm searching for? So, is it as simple as you get that awareness because you're constantly unhappy? You're not happy. You don't feel happy from within yourself. So, what do? So we've talked about this so many times as well on DSA, is that, there are things that you can do in your normal everyday life. How many times do you, sort of just sit with yourself, not doing anything, not watching TV, not listening to music, not, be your attention is not taken away anywhere. You're just sitting with yourself and feeling whatever comes up, even if it's for 5 minutes during the day. How many times, how often do you sit in nature? Again, just to re-energize, because we're constantly, especially living in cities and, doing 9 to 5 work, and not really, most of us we're in, we're in a concrete jungle. We're not in the countryside. So we've been depleted of all our natural, energy that we would sort of re-energize ourselves and feel connected again. That's gone because we're constantly just living in, brick houses and walking pavements. Whereas when you sit in nature, it's not just about sitting in nature, oh, it feels lovely. You're actually being regenerated, you're getting re-energized. when you go in on when you go on holiday or when you go in the sea, or when I go for walks sometimes in the park, people think I'm crazy because I take my socks and shoes off and I just stand there on the grass. I'm reconnecting, I'm re-energizing, and it feels so fantastic. That is what you want. That's what you're looking for. Those simple things that you're doing there over time, you start to feel that real love from within yourself. You start to feel, you start to get more messages, downloads, and all sorts of things start happening because you're now reconnecting from the inside out. You're reconnecting to that source, that love. So for me, I think is something where, yes, once you have that awareness and you start to sit with yourself and you start to, be more in nature, going out, walking into nature, and, doing things that re-energize you, you start to feel differently within yourself. That worthiness that you're looking for, that love that you're looking for from outside, is now, you're reconnecting with that. So for me, I think it's really important to encourage people to know that it's not, yes, it does take time and it's not going to happen overnight. But the minute you make that choice, that this is what you're looking for. You're looking for real peace and real joy and real love. And you understand that it's not going to come. Yes, there is. Don't get me wrong. There's certain satisfaction from living in this human life that you get from doing a good job at work. Helping people, connecting with people. Or whatever it is that you do for a living, and you enjoy it, and it brings you joy. That's fantastic. Nobody's saying that you need to stop that because it is giving you, that's your path in life. That's where you should be, and you love it. That's your job. We're talking about using whatever energy that you have to also fill you up as well. When you reconnect with the universe, either hugging trees or just standing on grass or swimming in the sea or whatever it is, that is a beautiful feeling. I cannot, rate it enough. That is the best feeling in the world. You actually feel like you're being loved there and then. You go into the sea, you know what it's like. You feel amazing. You feel like, wow, yeah, could stay in there all day because you're being loved 100%. You're reconnecting with who you are. I know it sounds, people will think, well, it can't just be that. But yeah, trust me, it actually is. Because, we've been told that to get to, this fantastic feeling in life, you have to have all these other external things. No, you don't. Actually, you don't. You just need to just be yourself and recognize that as well. So those are my tips for, how this can be done. And I think, in terms of the question from the audience, the viewer, I hope that you actually will try, not just you, but people who are watching this will actually try these things and see the difference and let us know
Sounds really, really good. Yeah.
how that you actually trying these things. What's your experience? We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You made some really good points, Lisa. Being out in nature and reconnecting, and it's not. And I have to stress when I say going out in nature, it's going out in nature minus the headphones,
Yeah,
minus just like really being present
yeah,
in nature.
yeah,
Because if you've got headphones, you're reading your book, you might be sat in the park, but you're not really connecting. So we're talking about really connecting
yeah,
with nature, with the trees, with the grass, with the birds, with the sky. Just really, like Lisa said, being held by nature. And again, we can only really appreciate that when we get to a level of like a quietness, And I feel like doing what Lisa said, for example, grounding in water, with your feet in the ground, touching trees. I like to touch them. I like to
Mm.
put my hand
It is
on a
nice.
really old tree and just feel like, oh, I really feel like, this sounds a bit woo woo, but I really feel like the energy is going from the tree and into my hand, and then bad energy is going from my hand into the tree, and I just feel like we're like exchanging, and it's beautiful, and I feel like they're full of so much wisdom, like ancient
Oh
wisdom.
yeah.
So definitely, like, just the simple things in life that are really, really important. But certainly for me, this is always my key takeaway from everything, is that awareness is key. If we're not aware, we can't do any better. So just being aware and noticing when you are, and even when we meet people, we go, oh, so, hey, my name is so and so. Yeah, okay, what do you do? And then we put them into like our little box of like, oh,
Mm.
they're a lawyer, so they
Yeah.
can this person, and actually we're deciding how other people's worth according to our little, where we put them, which is
Yeah.
wild, isn't it, when you think about it? So just noticing that you do that, again, without judgment. Not It's not like, it's not a wrong or right thing. It's just it is what it is, and we all do it. But seeing that you do that, and we're not really seeing the person, we're seeing their job and their title and their car and their clothes, and then we're deciding something about them. So seeing that you do that to others, seeing that you do that to yourself, to people that you watch on YouTube, Instagram, whatever, and that we're always judging who's worthy, who's not, and often we're the worst critics to ourselves. So I do hope that this has helped, and thank you so much for listening, and hopefully see you again for another episode of Dear Soul Auntie. Please consider subscribing, liking, and touching the notification bell for the next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you next time.